The operating room at St. Gabriel Medical Center in San Diego, California was drowning in chaos. Alarms pulsed like frantic heartbeats, nurses rushed across the sterile floor, and the sharp scent of antiseptic filled the air. On the operating table lay a wounded Navy SEAL commander, his uniform cut away, his body marked with the brutal cost of a mission gone wrong. Blood stained the sheets beneath him. Around the table stood a team of experienced surgeons fighting against time itself. And near the doorway stood the youngest person in the room. Rebecca Carter was only 24, a brand new surgical resident with trembling hands and a heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. She had dreamed of becoming a surgeon her entire life, but in that moment she felt small, invisible, and terribly out of place. The chief trauma surgeon, Dr. Michael Grant, was known across the hospital for his brilliance and his brutal temper. Tonight, under the harsh surgical lights, his patients had completely vanished. When Rebecca stepped forward to assist, Michael snapped at her with sharp frustration, ordering the rookie out of the room and dismissing her as useless. The words echoed through the operating room like a slap. The nurses fell silent. Even the monitors seemed to pause. Rebecca froze. Humiliation burned in her chest, but something deeper hurt even more. The wounded soldier on the table was fading fast, and she could see something the others were missing. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of proving people wrong, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that courage often comes from the most unexpected places. Rebecca did not move toward the door. Her training, though short, had been intense. She had spent sleepless nights studying trauma procedures and battlefield medicine. Her father, a retired Army medic named Thomas Carter, had raised her on stories about soldiers who survived because someone refused to give up on them. As Rebecca looked at the commander's wounds, her instincts screamed that something was being overlooked. The bullet had entered through the shoulder, but the blood loss pattern suggested something deeper. The commander's pulse was dropping, his oxygen levels unstable, and the surgical team seemed focused on the wrong injury. Her voice, though quiet, cut through the tension as she pointed out the likely internal bleeding near the lung cavity. Dr. Michael Grant turned toward her, clearly irritated that the rookie was still standing there. But the monitors behind him told their own story. The numbers were falling faster now. Time was running out. Reluctantly, Michael glanced at the scan images again. Rebecca was right. The real damage had been hidden beneath the obvious trauma. A fragment had pierced dangerously close to a major vessel near the lung. Without immediate correction, the commander would bleed internally within minutes. The operating room shifted instantly. Michael barked new instructions. The surgical team adjusted their approach, moving quickly to control the hidden bleeding. Rebecca stepped in silently, assisting where she could, her earlier embarrassment replaced by steady focus. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The team worked under intense pressure, carefully repairing the damage that had nearly gone unnoticed. Sweat formed along Michael's brow as he guided the delicate procedure, and for the first time that night, he allowed Rebecca to remain beside the table. The commander's name was Jacob Hayes. A decorated Navy SEAL leader who had served through countless missions around the world. Earlier that evening he had been flown in by helicopter after a classified operation off the California coast had gone terribly wrong. His team had barely made it back alive. Now his survival rested on the steady hands inside that operating room. Rebecca watched every movement closely, assisting with surgical tools, stabilizing equipment, and keeping track of vital signs. Her earlier fear slowly transformed into determination. Finally, after nearly 2 hours of intense work, the bleeding was contained. The monitors began to steady. A faint rhythm returned to the commander's pulse. The entire room exhaled. Dr. Michael Grant stepped back, exhausted but relieved. The surgery had succeeded. For a long moment, the room was silent except for the soft beeping of the heart monitor. Michael removed his gloves and glanced toward Rebecca, who was carefully recording post-operation notes. The same young resident he had tried to send away had just saved a man's life. But the story was not over. 2 days later, sunlight filtered through the recovery wing of St. Gabriel Medical Center. The hospital hallway was quieter now, the chaos of that night replaced by the calm rhythm of recovery. Inside room 314, Commander Jacob Hayes slowly opened his eyes. The pain hit him immediately, but so did awareness. Years of elite training had sharpened his instincts, and even through the haze of medication he understood where he was. Standing near the bed was Rebecca Carter. She had come in early that morning to check his vitals. She expected the commander to remain unconscious, but when she looked up from the chart she saw his eyes open. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then something remarkable happened. Despite the tubes, the bandages, and the weakness in his body, Commander Hayes slowly lifted his hand. With deliberate effort, he raised it to his forehead in a formal Navy salute. Rebecca blinked in surprise. The motion was slow and painful for him, yet precise. Years of discipline made the gesture unmistakable. His eyes held quiet gratitude. Across the room, Dr. Michael Grant had just stepped inside. He stopped in his tracks. The wounded Navy SEAL commander was saluting the very rookie he had tried to throw out of the operating room. Michael stood silently, watching the moment unfold. For perhaps the first time in years, the confident surgeon looked humbled. Commander Hayes later learned what had happened during the operation. The quiet resident he had never met had noticed the hidden injury that almost cost him his life. Her courage to speak up, even after being dismissed, had changed everything. The story spread quickly through the hospital. Nurses whispered about it in hallways. Interns repeated it during overnight shifts. The rookie who refused to walk away had saved a war hero. And Dr. Michael Grant never again underestimated the voice of someone new. Weeks later, as Jacob Hayes slowly recovered, he met Rebecca again in the hospital courtyard. The California sun warmed the quiet space, and for the first time since the surgery they had the chance to speak. He thanked her in the calm, steady voice of someone who had faced death and survived. Rebecca simply smiled. She had not spoken up for recognition. She had spoken up because someone needed help. If this story has touched your heart so far, take a moment to press like and share it with someone who believes courage can come from unexpected places. But before we finish, I have a special request for you. In the comments, write the word respect if you believe people should never be judged by their experience level or titles, but by their courage to do what is right. Because sometimes the quietest voice in the room is the one that saves a life. Commander Hayes eventually returned to duty months later, carrying a small scar across his shoulder and a powerful memory in his heart. Whenever young medics joined his unit, he told them about a rookie doctor who refused to stay silent. Rebecca Carter continued her surgical training with a new confidence. She still worked long nights, still faced difficult cases, and still carried the humility of someone who knew how fragile life could be. But she also carried something else. Proof that standing your ground, even when others doubt you, can change the course of someone's life. And sometimes, it can even earn a salute from a warrior who owes you his future. If this story moved you even a little, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Because the world always needs more reminders that courage, kindness, and second chances still exist.